So as many of you know, Mattie Heaven's partner, Vahid Beheshti, is outside the Foreign and Commonwealth Office as we speak, and he's been camping out there on the streets for so many days, for more than a month. And so the reason we've asked Mattie here today is to talk about her partner. But Mattie also has a considerable career, and I think it's very important to highlight that because when I look her up online, I find all the information quite disparate. So I think this has been quite an important exercise in consolidating everyone's expertise, and each time we introduce somebody, you know, it's a very special exercise in sort of arming ourselves as a diaspora, as a solidarity movement to understand what is the expertise and the understanding that we have within our group. And so that's an important exercise in making this conference happen. So Councillor Mattie Heaven for Coventry is also Regional Deputy Chairman for the Conservative Party. Coventry is one of UK's most racist cities. She has been campaigning tirelessly on behalf of her husband, the journalist for Door TV, Vahid Beheshti. As many of you know, Beheshti means heaven in Farsi. That's why their names have worked out this way. Mattie has spoken publicly at Iranian rallies and solidarity events, international policy. She has spoken on wider issues and civil rights, and she has an estimable background in the field of crime and deviance. She has been working to prevent extremism and violence in the UK. She has worked with people suffering from mental health issues. And she is also a trustee of Mind, a charity which works against the stigmatisation of mental health in the UK. She is a director of IOPHR, which is the the International Organisation to Preserve Human Rights.
Yes.
International Organisation to Preserve Human Rights. So we're very lucky to have her here today because Vahid's condition is reaching critical, and obviously she wants to be over there. So let's just give her a warm welcome and hear from Mattie Heaven.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Marianne. Thank you for organising these two very special days and bringing everyone together, because without you and without the preparation, these things wouldn't happen. And I know how it is, so much hard work goes behind this, organising an event. It's the first time for me personally to come and now start talking about my husband, because all my life it was about myself and my career and what I do for people, and so I had to reshuffle my brain and think, today I'm going to come and speak. Which area should I talk about? Woman, life, freedom, which I totally and passionately believe the movement that happened 7 months ago, and for 44 years that woman been struggling in Iran, and how can we, the work I've done. But today I'm just going to focus on my husband, because at this stage I want to share some of the experiences that I've had in the last 57 days of his hunger strike. My husband, as an independent journalist, believed always in human rights, but the other thing we always discussed was human obligation. If you look at the Charter of Human Rights, it does talk about how we individually have got rights. But one thing that resonated with me when Dalai Lama said we need to look at maybe reforming the Charter of Human Rights to human obligation, because everybody thinks about what is my right. Until the day that we constantly think about our rights, then we don't have enough time to think about the next person's right. And the world that we're living in a very much of a self-centered world. A selfish world is, what is it in it for me? What can I get from doing that? And that's probably why we see so much crisis in every level of side of society. So we always discuss about our obligation. What is my obligation as a human being when we talk about human rights? So my obligation is always, learning, and one we need to champion. We all need to champion this so that we can actually maybe review it, because not everything may be perfect. Is our obligation to defend other people's rights, regardless of their religion, regardless of their race, regardless of their sex, that we need to be able to champion that And the more people do that, the more we will see a different shift in society. Right now, we know that Iranian diaspora are fighting for the Iranians' rights inside of Iran and now outside. And the reason why my husband made that decision is that he realized there was so much he was doing in terms of covering news inside of Iran. And he was giving a lot of motivation of people who were going outside and speaking. And one of the time he was giving, in an interview, he was interviewing a Generation Z and said a lot of people criticize us. We're living our Iranian diaspora where we're giving messages to what's going on inside of Iran. And they say, well, you're in a comfort zone. You're sitting, in a comfort warmth, and we're championing everyone's going inside, outside of their comfort zone in the street, and knowing that they could be killed within the next minute or so. But they're doing that, and we are just watching it and trying to be their voice. And this young gentleman from Generation Z said something that resonates with me and with Vahid, and I'm sure it would resonate with all of you. He said, this revolution that took place, it's like an angel that has one wing inside of Iran and one wing outside of Iran. And therefore, you both need to, in order for it to fly, they both need to use their wing. And it was such a, for someone so that age to come with so much a deep intellectual thought of really resonates with me and Vahid. And so while he was always, doing his work with covering news, and at the same time with my activity, political activity, and I used my space in the party to be able to hold events in Parliament, invite MPs to educate them about the movement of what was going on, because as you all know, news travels so fast, people got short attention span, and I was trying to focus their attention to what was going on inside of Iran, because if it's not part of your daily brief, then it would be old news. So I was using my space, my platform, my position to hold events with MPs about the threat of Islamic Republic, not just inside of Iran, the IRGC here in UK, what we had experienced in the past, the threat personally, myself and my husband had experienced, and to others, journalists, activists, and just seeing that how people are just so afraid still to come out and show their face to support the movement, because they're still afraid that they'll be filmed and there will be, the family will have a consequence. So that was the point where my husband, Vahid Beheshti, said, well, we've done so much work, but to the point where MI5 recognized the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, as a terror in this country, to a point that we have journalists got life-threatening positions that they have to move the country, to a point that for so many years we were trying to speak about people's rights inside of Iran. We're seeing our rights are now being taken away from us. Our freedom of speech is being diluted and shrinked. And if we don't take a real extreme action or measure, it will be too late. It would be too late. And so he made that decision a week before his hunger strike started 57 days ago. He woke up and said, I don't think we can continue like this. If this regime doesn't collapse, we all are in trouble. Everybody who's living outside of Iran that been championing this, and people, there'll be a massacre of killing inside of Iran. There will be massacre of people being threatened outside of Iran. Our freedom and democracy will be under jeopardy. And the people who are non-Iranians can't see this, unfortunately. People who are, we know because we live it through daily. We've seen what radicalization, extremism, fundamentalism is slowly been eating this beautiful, rich country for 44 years. And it's our responsibility to now really be that voice for people who give us that choice and freedom here living in the UK. A lot of British friends of mine don't understand the threat of the IRGC. They don't know the complication of how this regime is being using different layers and levels of funding and lobbying to be able to survive for 44 years. So he said, well, we have to make that extreme action. And his personal obligation as a human being was changed for him over a few days. He said, Mattie, I cannot continue this. But if I make that decision to go on hunger strike, because it is something quite extreme, but it's a peaceful protest that will make a noise about what the current situation needs to be, will you support me? Because I need you to support me. And I said, at first I was shocked, but then very quickly I thought, yes, I will 100% support you, because we don't have any choice. We literally don't have any other choice. In my position, knowing so many people that I spoke to, MPs from both sides of the House, agreeing for UK government to recognise the Islamic Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist organisation, but they're not doing it, they paused it. There's something drastically wrong with the system.
We are asking you to be a man of your own word. UK government must take this very important step at this very crucial moment of history and stand strong in front of these terrorists. We are together, we are not against each other. So let's work together and take this great step.
And for somebody who's been a voice for other people, I found that actually I've become voiceless, and my husband became a voiceless person, and he came out and bought his tent. It was 3 of us. I will one day publish the video. It was a time when I said to him, it was quite a sad day, I said, I don't think our life will ever be same again.
You're brilliantly brave doing this, Mattie, and we all appreciate it. And the many people here have been going down to Foreign Commonwealth Office to show their support for your husband. And I think he's got his doctor on hand, hasn't he? So his doctor is checking his health and will pull him out before things get too hard or irreversible damage is caused. A massive personal loss in this family for the Women Life Freedom movement. And I think, when we live in a free country and we're helping people who don't have our freedoms, we do have to ask ourselves, how far will we go? And so your exemplary trials is something we all feel and share. Like, many of us have been down there, and some of us go continually. So I think we're with you 100%. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with showing emotion. This is emotion drives us. If it's not ego or vanity, as you rightly pointed out, emotion drives us. And you've got a cup of liquid from Pantea. So I think
I do want to finish.
Yes,
if I have
we're
time.
going to. Yeah, I was just going to give you a pause so that you could collect yourself. So a round of applause for Mattie before she.
Thank you. So he came on a tent. We didn't know many people because we're not from London, and he for 20 days I remember 1 or 2 people would pass by, but he said, don't worry, this is where I don't have any other option. So we fully supported him, and as we are now day 57, what has made him and myself every day to wake up is the sheer support that he's receiving, I'm receiving, and everybody else, because we're all in the same boat. We all want to see this change for people of Iran to have that freedom that we have here, the luxury that we have that they don't have. So that's the way I think so far he's managed to stay in a hunger strike and has continued with the same messages, the messages that the government has to recognize the Islamic Revolution Guard as a terrorist organization because of the terror activities now here in UK, because it's threatening the British citizens' lives now. And if we don't speak out, tomorrow, I say to the politicians, in 20, 30 years' time, the same executions that are taking place inside of Iran will be in this land. And it's our responsibility to wake them up and say, this is a serious issue. This is not something to be appeasing on. You cannot change a nature of, I always say, rewind back, they say, well, how can somebody be so brutal, and how can somebody be so extreme? How can they kill children? How can they rape children? People can't understand, politicians can't understand how severity of the brutality of this regime and Islamic Revolutionary Guards are. And I say to them, it's like having, how can you change a nature of a scorpion? Okay, I'll give an example. A scorpion with itself is made to sting. You can't change the nature of a scorpion. You can't change the nature of this regime. You can't negotiate. You can't sit around the table with a paedophile and try to say, okay, let's go around, sit down with the children, maybe you will change your behavior. You cannot do that. And that's the same method that they've been trying to do for 44 years. And I know why. We all know why. It's because they've had heavy lobbyists trying to say that this regime is so dangerous that the only method we can work with them is to negotiate, sit around the table and talk to them. It hasn't worked. So I want to rewind, because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm sure I could write a book about this. To summarize that, yesterday was a very successful day. We had different parties from the House, Conservative, Lib Dem, Labour, peers come in and supported Vahid, wrote a letter to Prime Minister. In that letter, it stated what Vahid wishes is the same wishes of the House and their support, and they wanted the Prime Minister to listen and act on prescribing IRGC. And it was such a great image to watch for other British Iranians to see how they come together supporting him, different political backgrounds. You all know what political background I am, but when it comes for a cause at common that is related to humanity, we all have the same belief. So we came together, and it was just so beautiful to see that. And hopefully there'll be more results, and we need to put that pressure on. And today why I'm here is to share my experience, and I think that's something for us to take, that right now we're talking about humanity. In humanity, we don't have political differences. In humanity, we have it's a life and death situation. People in the streets of Iran, when they're going out, they're not asking each other, what's your political belief? Are you a left? Are you middle or right that you're standing next to me and fighting with that despot who's trying to kill you? In the prisons, when they're being raped, they're not asking each other, what is your political belief? And that's something for us to remember and take, and actually our responsibility for everyone who is here to take that to outside and pass that message that right now, as an individual, we have a political belief. But when it comes down to human rights, we all feel the same way. And that's something that's very important to take. If we wanted to win this battle, and we will do, we all need to come together, united, for humanity. When I say humanity, is no longer for Iran, for the world, because you all know that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard threats is not even in UK, it's not in Middle East, it's a world crisis. Our peace is on jeopardy, our democracy is on jeopardy, and it's our responsibility to be able to champion that all individually. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all. The 29th, there's a rally that's taking place. and there's information that you could all join. If you want to promote anyone who is non-Iranian, different groups that have been affected by Islamic Revolutionary Guards, please do that. And we are daily going out and staying outside of Foreign Office to show our unity, that we all feel the same way in regards for the government to actually make these changes. If you have any questions, please let me know.